Hey everyone, welcome back to your math class. Today we are going to spend just a few minutes together. I just want to go over a couple of little housekeeping details before you guys get to studying for your test. And then I'm going to quickly go over the concepts that you should know very well for Tuesday's test. And then you guys are going to have the rest of the class to study and to ask any questions that you might have about the homework from last time. So let's get right into it. So first things first, your test is going to be during class next Tuesday. So that's our next math class. That's Tuesday, February 13th. Now, to help you guys get ready for that, I'm going to be hosting 2 live review sessions on YouTube. So I'm going to set up a YouTube live stream, and you guys will be able to type in your questions in the live chat, and then I'll try and go through some examples. I'm going to see if there's something I can figure out, maybe with like a whiteboard. I do have a small whiteboard here with me somewhere, that I can use to kind of go through some of the questions, or I'll, see if I can find a way to like share my screen somewhere and work through the problems like that. But we'll figure that out. If you have general questions about how to go through a certain type of problem, I can do that as well. Yeah, so there's going to be 2 review sessions. The first one is going to be sometime in the morning. Now, at the time of recording, that time is still not yet fully decided, so I'm going to be having a conversation with your teachers that are there at the school to decide exactly when that's going to be, and they'll give you guys that update by the end of this week. So either by the time you guys are watching this video, you'll already know, or before the weekend comes, you guys will know when the review session is going to be that morning on Monday, so you guys can have your questions ready, so that you can save time instead of having to kind of come up with questions on the spot. Try and get a couple questions ready over the weekend if you have some. Maybe do a little bit of studying on Friday, do more studying on Saturday, and whatever you're not sure of Sunday evening, write those things down so you can ask me those questions on Monday. Now, I understand that if a lot of you have questions, if there's technical difficulties with getting everything set up properly for a review session in the middle of class, we will also have a second review session on Monday as well, but that's going to be in the evening at 6 p.m. Dominican time. So the reason I've put 6 p.m. Dominican time is so that it's a reminder to me, because I'm an hour behind you guys, so that's 5 p.m. for me, 6 p.m. for you. If there's technical difficulties in the morning, if there's questions that you don't really want to ask in front of classmates because maybe you think it's a dumb question, then you can do it in the evening when you're kind of a little bit more anonymous, typing in your questions. So I'm going to have those 2 review sessions. I've envisioned them both lasting an hour. I'm not sure about the first one, whether it's going to last exactly an hour, a little bit less, a little bit more. The second one, 6 to 7. If there's questions, a little bit after that, if there's a ton of questions that evening, I'm happy to make it an extra hour. I'm happy to make that 2 hours in the evening on Monday. But point is, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be available. I'm going to do my best to check in to the YouTube comments just to see if there are any questions there. But I am definitely more accessible on Instagram and on WhatsApp. So if you guys have those questions and you really, really need to get a hold of me quickly, talk to your teachers, find a way that you can reach out to me on WhatsApp, or you guys have the handle for the Instagram, so you can send me questions there. But I will do my best to check into the YouTube comments as well, and hopefully I can clarify all of that stuff for you guys. So just going to take another couple minutes to show you everything that you need to know for the test. So first things first, when it comes to fractions, you should be able to add, subtract, multiply, and divide involving fractions. So you might not have that both numbers that you're adding together or multiplying or whatever are going to be fractions, but at least one of them will be, and you should be good at all 4 of those things: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division of fractions. Now, of course, that also means that you should be comfortable converting between mixed numbers and improper fractions, because sometimes it's a little bit easier maybe to do addition keeping them as mixed numbers, because you can add the whole numbers separately and then add the fractional parts separately. But for multiplication and division, it's a little tricky to do that with mixed numbers. You should be able to convert to improper fractions. You should be able to go both ways to make it easier for you. Maybe you struggle to do the addition with mixed numbers, but you wouldn't struggle if it was an improper fraction. So get good at converting mixed numbers into improper fractions so that the next step becomes easier for you. So just like that, there's going to be some questions where I ask you to convert this to that to the other, but in general, I just want you guys to be comfortable converting between those so you can answer the questions in the way that's easiest for you. And you should also be cognizant, you should be aware of the fact that I'd like you to reduce your answers to lowest terms. So if you've got a fraction that's like 2 over 4, right? 2 as a numerator, 4 as the denominator, that reduces down to 1/2. So there's going to be like, if you've got a question, it's a word problem and your final answer is 2 over 4, there's probably going to be, if the word problem is 4 marks, there's going to be a 1/2 mark or a 1 mark somewhere that includes reducing to lowest terms. So be aware of that. Just I'm going to try not to give you guys crazy numbers that you have to spot that, oh yeah, 51 is divisible by 17. Yeah, I'm not going to give you guys that stuff. It's going to be stuff like you have an answer of 4 over 8 and I want you to write that as a 1/2, or you have an answer of, I don't know, 3 over 15 and I want you to write that as 1/5. Things like that. And that's it for fractions. When it comes to decimals, same kind of idea. I'd like you to be comfortable with addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division involving decimals. Now, that might require some familiarity with the place value names, like the tenths, hundredths, thousandths that we talked about some time ago. And you should also know how to spot repeating decimals. So if you have forgotten that, go back to the old videos. Yeah, when it comes to decimal long division, I haven't made the test yet, so I can't tell you that like, oh, watch out, there's going to be a repeating decimal. I don't know yet. I haven't made the test yet. Yeah, that's something that you should definitely be aware of, because otherwise you risk losing a lot of time going through a whole bunch of extra steps in your long division problem. That's truly a never-ending set of steps. So yeah, that's just something I thought I'd put out there. And before I forget, if you do have questions or concerns, of course, please feel free to reach out to me. Ask your other teachers if they're a little bit more available at the time that you have the question. But also, go back to the YouTube videos. They're there for you to watch. And if you go down in the channel, you'll see a series of, or actually, if you go over to the playlists tab in the channel, if you look up the channel itself, you'll see a playlist of around about 60 videos. That's the most complete math course that I've taught. So you should find maybe some other examples, some other explanations, things like that, because I made that one a few years ago and I haven't gone back to it before making these lessons. So I'm sure I explained some concepts a little differently. I'm sure I gave different examples. So if you'd like to practice a little bit more, if you'd like to hear the explanation given a little bit differently, try those videos. If you want the practice problems, wait for me to set up an example and then pause the video and see if you can solve it, and then play the video to see if I got the same answer that you did. Things like that. Those resources are there for you guys. But so that's it for fractions and decimals. Now we're going to look quickly at percentages. So for percentages, there's just a couple of things that I'd like you to know. So I'd like you to be able to convert percentages to decimals, because in order to do problems involving decimals, involving percentages, a lot of the time it's going to be like, oh, there's like the kinds of questions we've done before, that you've got, a concert ticket is going to cost this many dollars, but then there's this percentage tax on there. So you end up having to calculate something like 11% of $15. So you should be able to calculate things like, 20% of 30. And in order to do that, you need to write the percentage as a decimal, and you have to remember that the of here means multiplication. So that's something I'd like you to remember. And also remember the trick that if you've got like a% of b, so like 20% of 30, that's the same thing as 30% of 20. So you can swap the two numbers that you're dealing with there, and it doesn't change the problem. So that's just there in order to make things easier for you guys. Sometimes you've got 57% of, I don't know, 57% of 25. or you could make that 25% of 57, and 25 is a quarter. Maybe it's a little bit easier to work through that. Things like that. But yeah, so those are the things that you should remember that'll help you answer the questions involving percentages on the test. And just in general, it would be a good idea to be reasonably comfortable converting between fractions, decimals, and percentages, so that if I give you a word problem and I've given you all the numbers, the key numbers that you need to use, if I've given all of those to you as decimals, but you have an easier time working with fractions and they're easy to convert, go ahead and convert. If I've given them to you as fractions and they're easier for you to work in decimals, convert the fractions to decimals. Get good at that so that you can solve the questions in the way that's easiest for you. So yeah, that's about it. Just these last couple of slides have everything that you need to know for the test. And that's it. So we're, 10, 11 minutes into the video. That's all I've got for you today. You can use the rest of today's class to study for the test, and you can clarify any questions that you had about the homework while you're in class, or of course you can reach out to me and we will sort something out. So good luck for Tuesday. I obviously won't be posting a video on Tuesday, but I will see you guys in the review session on Monday. Have a good one.